Well, Joe, in maybe the least surprising news of this year so far, Warner Brothers, our friends down the street,
Love them,
in Burbank, Warner Brothers is apparently very worried. They're getting very worried about Paul Thomas Anderson's new movie, highly anticipated new movie, which is now officially titled One Battle After Another. It's also officially his take, his kind of modernization of the Thomas Pynchon novel Vineland. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio. These are the things we know. We also know now that Warner Brothers has done some test screenings. They've gotten a look at it, and they're very worried. They're calling it eccentric and bizarre is the quote that got leaked from the Warner Brothers C-suite. And the main reason they're worried is because this movie, the budget has apparently ballooned to $175 million, Joe. It was at 140 at some point. It's ballooned to 175. I have sources, Joe. My sources tell me it might even be closer to 200 now. Warner Brothers is not publicly commenting on what this movie costs at the moment, but they are very worried that it's not going to make its money back. It's not going to do well at the box office. Joe, what do you think of this? How should Warner Brothers be feeling right now? Should they be nervous? And how should we, the audience, be feeling about this?
Warner's in 2025, coming off of Barbie, has this auteur-driven slate, okay? And we're going to get one more of them before they sort of shake it up and refocus again on linear TV, and they refocus on other, sort of IP-driven plays. So we, as the audience, we should just enjoy the whole entire Warner Brothers slate this year. I think it's awesome that PTA got $200 million to make his action movie, is what I'm hearing. Is it's like a series of action set pieces that just build and build and build. As far as the $200 million price point, worked out for Warner's on Barbie, which is Barbie, so it has it's not quite Vineland. It's a little bit better IP.
Yeah.
And then also they just spent $200 or $300 or $500 on fucking Joker 2, and that ruined the whole studio, for the year essentially. Will the Battle of Bactan Cross, or now it's called
One Battle
After Another, will that ruin the studio? I don't think so. I like these big auteur plays. I like the number 175 on the PTA movie at Warner Brothers, and I like the big number on that Safdie Brothers movie with Chalamet. I like some of these
at A24. Yeah, Marty Supreme.
These like very original, sort of auteur-driven, big budget movies. There's value there. 200's a lot, but also it's like, oh, good, you're in charge of the studio, so you can fucking bring the budget down.
Mark,
what are you complaining about?
And also, lean into it now. There's the only
way
way out is further in.
The only way. That's what
Market the hell out of it. Cut the sickest trailer anyone has ever seen. We know he shot the footage for a good trailer.
Preach.
Find whatever Supertramp song is going to drive people crazy and tie it all together.
Have Tom Cruise go to it and be like, that was fucking mind-blowing.
The cinema is not dead.
Look, there's so it has Leonardo DiCaprio, Paul Thomas Anderson, though an auteur, and though he makes good movies. My fucking dad knows who that is. That's like a popular guy. Yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm sure this movie is going. Look, it's a PTA film. That's action driven. It's going to look fucking preposterously beautiful.
Rule. The only way out is further in.
I agree, brother.
In. Market.
Sell me on it.
I think this is very good news. Definitely good news for us, the audience. And in fact, a $200 million, potentially a $200 million PTA action movie that the studio thinks is too eccentric and bizarre to market. I'm going to say it, Joe. I think we're on masterpiece alert. Wee-oo, sound the alarm. This sounds like it could be a masterpiece in the making to me. A $200 million movie
guy only makes
that the studio doesn't understand by PTA, and it's an action movie? Come on. He hasn't had this much of a blank check at the studio since Magnolia, and we know what Francis Ford Coppola told him when he was about to make Magnolia. Whatever you want to do it now, baby. Except he's getting a second chance to do that. I have a feeling that whatever he wanted to do, he knew he had to do it now. He ain't getting a $200 million budget again probably for the rest of his career. Because, look, this thing, if we're lucky, will eke its way into profit at best. They should be worried in financial terms. But like Joe said, the art of cinema, the spirit of cinema, the audience of cinema, it's good news. This is good news city, baby. I cannot wait for One Battle After Another.
Me neither. How dare they greenlight it, pay for it, and then let this leak?
And then go,
such message undisciplined from Warner Brothers.
Thank
Somebody
you.
please let us run that
Lean
studio.
into this moment. Have the
sake.
courage of your conviction.
Just be like, it's going to be
awesome. You did a great thing.
Maybe you won't sleep for 9 months. Lie and say it's the best movie you ever saw.
Lie.
It's
Do
going
the
to make
long leg
$1 billion.
strategy.
Fucking lie.
Yes, lie. Okay.
Jesus.
Because guess what? Out of all the movies that people lie about and end up being like anticlimactic, a PTA movie is not going to be that. Okay? It's going to bring it. It's going to have the juice. It might not look like what you had in your mind when you heard PTA's doing an action movie. That's because it's PTA. He's not doing an action movie. He's doing a PTA movie with action in it. Okay? Trust him. Trust the process. Market the hell out of this thing. And let's get butts in seats.
It's fine. It's going to do 40 million opening weekend domestic with a 15 to 20 international, and then it'll eke its way up to like 130, 150 total at the box office, and it'll cover costs in, VOD and stuff like that. Maybe it loses $1 million or makes $1 million.
Lost leader, be the cool studio again. Be cool. Be cool, Warner Brothers.
That's what they have. They have a cool slate this year. We'll see what they do with it. We'll see if they. I like what you're saying. Just champion it. Push it.
Champion it. It's too late to turn back now. Don't do this. This like, oh no, we're not sure if it's going to be marketable or not. You decide if it's marketable by marketing it.
Just market it. However you wish it was, make it seem like that in the trailer.
It's the movie business, baby. It's showbiz.
Whatever you wish it was.
Give it the old razzle dazzle.
Lie to everyone.
Give it
the
freaking razzle
that.
dazzle. Joe, are you ready to start this week's episode of Movies, Baby?
Yes, I am.
Then Margot, can you roll that fanfare, please?
Welcome to Movies, Baby, with Five Wives, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, and I'm joined by my co-host, Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! This week on Movies, Baby, we've got the winners and losers of the 2025 Sundance Film Festival, plus box office updates and reviews of the new movies Companion and Presence. And then in the second half of the show, for Patreon subscribers only, we're picking our top 5 actresses of 2024, and we're going to tell you what we really thought about the movie Baby Girl. But first, Margot, Carson, as the fanfare reaches its climax, show me the money.
Wow.
And by money, there it is.
Wow.
Look at that. I mean the weekly box office returns, baby. We've got, Joe, we've got 2 new movies at the top of the box office. You love to see that.
Yeah.
You love to see the new blood coming in.
I really do.
We got 2 movies that did well, and we've got our first, really impressive opening of the year. And wouldn't you know it, it's an animated kids movie. DreamWorks' Dog Man brought in $36 million opening weekend. The budget was only $40 million. This is the second biggest January opening for an animated movie ever.
Wow.
After Kung Fu Panda 3, also by DreamWorks.
Yep.
So Universal, who owns DreamWorks Animation,
Yes.
has got to be thrilled. And speaking of thrilled, Warner Brothers, who needed some good news after all this hand-wringing over one battle after another, Warner Brothers has got to be, maybe if not thrilled, at least pleased with how their low-budget horror comedy, seemingly hard-to-market movie Companion did, raking in $9.5 million opening weekend on a $10 million budget.
That's great.
So, Joe, my questions for you are, what do you make of Dogman's success? What do you make of Companion's successful performance? And are you surprised to see a nice little weekend here in the doldrums of late January, early February?
Well, you know me. I love the movies, so I love a good weekend. Dogman, big and nice for DreamWorks and Universal, who's the new distributor. The first film in this series, this is a spin-off, Brett, of Captain Underpants, which came out in 2017.
Yes. A very successful book series.
Huge book series. Like, I remember when I was a kid, those came out. They were popular. And my little nephews, they love all the Dave Pilkey books, Dogman, etc. The Captain Underpants movie did big numbers. It was the last DreamWorks movie distributed by Fox, interestingly enough, before DreamWorks sold to Universal. And that movie did great. It opened with $120 million, or made $120 million or something, whatever. It made a ton of money, right?
Yeah.
So Dogman didn't make that kind of money, but it did what it needed to do. It covered cost. It's a spin-off. It's not even Captain Underpants 2, and it did this well. Universal just did an amazing job. First of all, owning DreamWorks at Universal, that means they own Illumination, which is, Despicable Me.
The Minions.
And they own DreamWorks.
Yes.
That's healthy
Shrek,
animation.
Kung Fu Panda,
that is
et cetera,
fucking
et cetera.
good.
How to Train Your Dragon.
They did great on this Dogman thing. They did all the Universal stuff they always do. They did all the smart stuff. A Food Network crossover on the Kids Baking Championship. 250 million social media interactions. They had a book tour. They had 100+ character appearances where Dogmen went to bookstores and libraries across the U.S. and the U.K.
Wow.
I mean,
Good work.
they just did their thing. So, we know that animated features do well. Pilkey stuff's beloved. Universal knew exactly how to distribute this film, and there you go. Opening weekend, covered costs.
And the
Bang.
message was clear. The message from the marketing campaign was like, this is the first big animated kids movie of the year. Like, get ready for it.
Take
They
your
did
kids to
some
this.
really great trailer buys like over the holiday break. So everyone was like geared up for like, okay, we just got through the holidays. We don't have to go to the movies like for the next 2 weeks. But then Dogman's the first
They
one we're
did,
going
man.
to.
They
Mark the
adverti-
calendar for Dogman.
they
That's the first one we're taking the
advertised-
kids to.
They advertised on the dog show. They advertised on NFL football games. They advertised on holiday specials.
Yep.
They knew it. They ran that exact playbook.
Yep. And Dogman did, like you're saying, have surprising brand loyalty, because I was reading that close to a third of the audience that was polled said they came because they knew the books and they loved the franchise. So close to a third, that's pretty good brand loyalty. And then,
great,
45% just said because it looked fun and entertaining and it was something to take the kids to. And that's how these kids' movies rake in the dough, baby. So Dogman played the playbook well, and it only cost $40 million. So it's looking at a nice box office return.
And then the second film that we have here, Companion,
Yes.
is another great price point. A $10 million horror movie that made $10 million opening weekend. Like, that's the only thing better is a fucking smash hit. Like, that's heaven on earth. Why did this movie do so well? Well, first of all, it got great reviews, which is important for box office success. Whether
Very
or not we
important.
agree is immaterial. It got great reviews, and that drove box office. It did have an interesting marketing thing where they sort of breadcrumbed some of the plot elements that sort of hooked people right at the right times to go out for the film. And I saw that poll was taken, and 26% of the audience saw it specifically
I saw
for
this.
Sophie Thatcher.
For Sophie Thatcher, yes.
Sophie, horror it girl, question mark. 25% of the audience coming out this weekend just to see Sophie do her thing in the horror movie.
That's Yellow Jackets, baby. That's
right.
That's Yellow Jackets fans.
Yeah.
Sophie Thatcher's got a fan base, and I did the math on this, Joe. Based on what the movie brought in, like 9.5 million. If 26% of the people were going to see Sophie Thatcher, that means your movie made 2.47 million opening weekend just because Sophie Thatcher was in it. And I hope Sophie's agents and lawyers are doing that math too, and they take it into the next contract
She's a star.
negotiations, because she's putting butts in seats, baby. That's a star in the making.
She's a star. Sorry, she's a star. And then the final thing is just good release timing. Like, no other horror movies came out this weekend, and horror does really well. And it looked like a horror movie that was going to do well. It had that glossy, post A24-ish sort of horror, elevated horror thing going on.
I actually wonder, Joe, if they should have put more into marketing, because the marketing campaign was nice. The poster was very interesting. The trailer was good. But they lightly marketed the movie, whereas if you look at, like, right now, The Monkey, Osgood Perkins' follow-up to Longlegs, and it's doing a similar marketing campaign as Longlegs, it's going hard into this, like, sort of viral, aggressive, like, this is going to be the most mind-blowing horror thing you've ever seen.
Tons of
right?
marketing.
And The Monkey right now is projecting at 15 to 20 million opening weekend, and that's from a much smaller studio. I mean, this is Warner Brothers put out Companion, and The Monkey's being put out by Neon, an indie studio. So I'm wondering if Warner Brothers, if these major studios start to follow the lead of some of these indie distributors in terms of how their horror movies are being marketed, and lean a little bit more, not even spend more, but just lean more into a strategy, into a sort of viral strategy, a kind of hype it up strategy.
Yeah.
If they could even, get a little more out of a movie like Companion opening weekend, a little more than 9.5 million, which is very good, but I feel like there was maybe a little left in the tank that they left.
I wonder if there's like a cost benefit analysis where they're like, we could put 6 million more into this and we would only get, X amount of returns. I wonder if there's some sort of calculus. That being said, the subsidiaries that distribute this in the in the WB world could have been more forward thinking with some of their marketing stuff. Although I bet if they were standing right in front of us, they'd be like, we did all the best practices and it made its money back. Fuck
well,
you.
that's it. Is they're not going to get creative with a movie like this and only
Right.
cost $10 million. I was reading that Warner Brothers' only goal with a $10 million movie is to get into profit.
As
and
it
once
should
they
be.
get there, they're fine.
Think
They're
about
not
our
trying to do
smaller
like a
shows.
high risk, high reward strategy in order to like get a surprise sleeper hit. They just want to see these $10 million movies hit profit, and they're going to move on and focus on the big picture, big picture
And
movies.
let's pretend it dramatically outperformed even what it already. Let's say it did $18 million. Well, then next time Drew is making a movie, they'll give him the Osgood Perkins treatment.
Yeah.
Neon's doubling down because Longlegs was like one of the top 3 most impressive box office returns of last year.
Right.
So Neon's like, well, we're not dumb. We're going to like push
the
the
same
fucking
thing.
shit out
Do
of
the
the
playbook
monkey.
again.
Yeah, which has a great trailer.
It does. It has a very good trailer.
It really does.
Yeah.
I think I think James Wan might have showed Osgood just how to lighten up a little bit. Might have given him a little sense of humor. Kind of said, "It's okay, buddy. You're doing a really good job. Pat on the back. Have a little fun with it. I wonder if James Wan's going to help Osgood unlock himself.
I thought you were maybe suggesting that he's doing a little like, you know how Steven Spielberg used to be sort of shadow director on some projects.
Oh,
Do
no,
you think
I'm not
James Wan got in
no,
there and
no,
got in there and moved
no.
the camera around a little
What
bit?
I choose to believe is that James Wan is an excellent producer and collaborator
Yes.
that helped Osgood
Yeah.
figure out what was best with his stuff and what to leave behind on
And
the
look,
long
we'll
legs
see. We'll
cutting
see with the
table.
monkey. We'll see what happens.
I'm excited.
We'll see what happens.
I'm
But
excited. Arrest me. I know. I gave Osgood shit because he seems like a director, aka he has an ego like every director.
Well, look,
I can't wait for the monkey.
No. And also, it's fair to say that the hype has outrun the body of work up to this point. But he is very good at generating the hype, and I'm on board for the monkey.
Yeah.
Let's get into some movie news, Joe. And the big thing that we got to talk about this week for movie news is that famous gathering in Park City, Utah, every year, the Sundance Film Festival. Once helmed by Robert Redford himself, the birthplace of the American independent cinema of the 90s, sexualizing videotape and Reservoir Dogs.
You're saying it like it's A, not true, and B, bad. Everything you're saying is true and was good.
All of these things
okay,
are
all right,
true.
okay.
All of these things are true. I'm just giving it a little levity so it doesn't
Okay.
get too full of itself.
Okay, I got it.
The ship,
You're bringing
although the
it
ship
down
has,
a peg.
The ship has sailed on that front. But how about this, Joe? Let's do some winners and losers of Sundance 2025 for the people. Winners and losers. I got a couple for you. I want to hear your responses
Hit
to
me.
this. My first winner of Sundance 2025 is Netflix. Oh, God. Netflix was a big winner because Netflix right now is desperate for a Best Picture win. They want the prestige, baby. They want to prove that they are on the level. They are on the level with the major studios, that they can produce not just streaming schlock, but they can produce a Best Picture winner. They've gotten 9 nominations so far, 0 wins. It's probably going to be 10 nominations with 0 wins because Amelia Perez is in a tailspin right now. So Netflix came to Sundance not looking for box office, but looking for prestige, looking for what is going to be their best picture, one of their best picture candidates for next year. And they found it, baby, because they ended up buying what was probably the best reviewed film out of the festival, Clint Bentley's Train Dreams. This is by Clint Bentley and the team, the writer-director team behind Sing Sing, the movie Sing Sing that was so good this year. And Train Dreams is a adaptation of a Dennis Johnson novel. It sounds like it's like a Terrence Malick movie about boxcar hobos, sort of, and it's so gorgeous it made everyone cry.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, yes. And so Train Dreams
Can't wait to watch that on Netflix.
Thank you. Which brings me to my first loser, Joe. My first loser, which is people hoping for a theatrical release for Train Dreams.
Yeah, that's me. I'm the loser, I guess.
Yeah,
That sounded
well,
really good.
Keep hoping. And look, we know Netflix has softened on its theatrical release policy with
Not for Clint.
Thank you. For Greta Gerwig and maybe for Ryan Johnson if he's lucky, but I don't think Clint Bentley's got the sway yet.
And one day you will, Clint.
And one day you will. When Train Dreams wins Best Picture at the Academy Awards.
Apparently it's great. Early 20th century, Joel Edgerton. Everyone's walking around. It's looking really pretty.
All I heard was how pretty it is, how great it looks, how great it sounds. I want to see this thing on the big screen, Netflix, not on my little rinky-dink television.
Well, me and you will get to go to the 3 Fuck You nights when they show it in New York and LA for the Fuck You.
Right.
And we'll go to them.
Right.
We'll go
'Cause
to
they
that.
got it-
And then you'll come to the podcast and we'll go, they should have shown it on the big screen.
Yes. We'll get to see it.
But we'll see it. And we'll tell you it's really good.
Next winner, body horror fans.
Hey, it's me.
Rejoice, body horror fans, because body horror is having a moment. You knew this was going to happen in the wake of The Substance doing so well this year, critically, financially relative to its budget, awards-wise. And sure enough, 2 of the most talked about movies at Sundance this year were body horror movies. One was a Norwegian movie I can't wait to see called The Ugly Stepsister, which retells the Cinderella story with a body horror angle. And I was reading, in a body horror review, you get the quick, here's the 4 disgusting things that happen. And they always sounded disgusting and amazing. Yeah. So I cannot wait for The Ugly Stepsister. It's at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes
They pop
right now.
her pregnant belly with a pin and pus comes out.
It's going to be a blast. You're going to love it. Bring the family. It's at 97% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. And Rotten Tomatoes is weirdly useful right after Sundance because it's only the critics who saw it at Sundance. So it's every Sundance movie has 20 reviews, and it's by all the critics who just saw it at Sundance. So it's at 97% with those critics. They loved it.
People like that.
And the other big body horror movie, which was bought by Neon after a bidding war, is a movie called Together, starring real-life couple Dave Franco and Allison Brie. And the premise is a codependent relationship as body horror. Joe. A codependent relationship is body horror. You seem more hyped for The Ugly Stepsister is the vibe I'm getting from you.
I love Alison Brie.
Great. Well, you're going to get her in a body horror movie, and you love body horror.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
My next loser, though, my next loser is the winner of the grand jury prize, the winner of the biggest prize at Sundance.
Now, hold on. No.
Atropia.
Now, hold on. You're saying that the winner of the festival is one of your losers?
That's right, Joe.
Why?
That's right. Well, I'll tell you, because the movie Atropia, which sounds interesting, an Iraqi war satire directed by Haley Gates and starring Aaliyah Shawkat.
Sounds great.
It's about an aspiring actress in a military role-playing facility. I mean, I like all those words in unison.
Oh,
That
you
sounds
like the
interesting.
military. Disgusting.
That sounds interesting. But this movie, although it won the grand jury prize, it had very lukewarm reviews from the critics, and apparently there was a lot of confusion about why this movie won the grand jury prize. It also didn't get distribution. It didn't sell. And so it's leaving Sundance, although it won the top prize, it's leaving Sundance with that unenviable reputation of a movie that won an award but shouldn't have won an award is kind of the headline for Atropia, which is not the headline you want coming out of Sundance. And so people are kind of,
Gentle pushback?
Yes.
It was a light buying season at Sundance this year. So far, only 3 feature films. Well, the 4th film's a short film.
Yeah.
Well, only 3 feature films have been,
That's
bought for distribution.
Only 3.
Only 3. Now, that can be for 1,000 reasons. One reason could be the movies aren't that good, but there can also be economic reasons and all sorts of the changing economics of the fest and the da-da-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. But it is surprising. But it just is surprising that nobody just gobbled it up. And now you could probably get it at a good rate. Maybe they're just, they're doing the thing. They're maybe some of the lawyers and some of the agents are just like kicking it, telling us it sucks, so they can lower the price, and then Mubi can snatch it up for a pittance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, look, it sounds good.
Look, it sounds good, and also, I want to be clear. We have not seen any of these movies, so we are not judging them on their merits. We are just reporting to you the reports from Sundance, the gossip, okay? My next winner, though, rejoice, my Dinner with Andre fans. If you are a fan of the movie My Dinner with Andre like Joe.
I love that movie.
Basically, what I'm saying is if you like movies that are just one big, long conversation, then you're in luck because the new Ira Sachs movie called Peter Hewer's Day it looks like it's destined to enter the long conversation canon alongside My Dinner with Andre. You and I loved Ira Sachs' last movie, Passages.
Abundantly.
Incredible film. And Sachs is reteaming with Ben Whishaw from that movie,
Good.
plus Rebecca Hall,
Good.
incredible actor, for a movie this is one of the best premises for a movie I've ever heard. It's a recreation of an interview that took place in 1974 between a journalist, Linda Rosencrantz, and her friend, the photographer, Peter Hewer, where she just asks him what an average day in his life is like, and they talk for 75 minutes. And it's called Peter Hewer's Day. Joe, I cannot wait for the new My Dinner with Andre, Peter Hewer's Day. Oh, my God. My number one most anticipated movie coming out of Sundance.
I'm literally about to, run through the wall.
Joe
is
is
so excited. Honestly, you couldn't have
hear him.
You
I can
couldn't
hear
have
his body.
You couldn't have strung together a series of words that made me more amped up. The Eagles should put me in the Super Bowl on Sunday. I am ready to hit. Boom. I feel great about that. Here's what's fucked up. The year's barely started, but Peter Hewer's Day, instant top 10 movie of the year for Joe. Just based on the log line.
Right.
That and the Shrouds. It's okay, cool. Well, those are going to be high on the list if they're any good. That sounds like perfect.
Although we said this about Honora last year before seeing it, our beloved Sean Baker's new movie Honora, and although we both liked it, it did not show up on our top 10. So you never know. Hype is a double-edged sword, my friend.
But I love the Nora. That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
Look, Peter Luger's Big Day. That's just one of the 6 movies I've heard of this year.
Peter Luger's Big Day.
Oh, also the PTA we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
what I'm saying is
this movie.
You're right. It's going to fill up quick. There's lots of good movies coming out this year.
This year's going to rule.
I'm excited.
This year's going to rule.
Peter Luger's Big
I got
Day.
two more losers for you, Joe. Two more losers for you. One of my losers is, and I'll explain this one. One of my losers is Eva Victor's lawyers, or whoever negotiated the sale of Sorry Baby, one of the 3 movies that sold.
Explain, because they're one of the only 3 movies that sold, and it sold to A24, which is
that's right.
That means you win. So
now look,
explain yourself, fool.
I'm also probably the movie I'm second most excited for coming out of Sundance. Sorry Baby. Comedian Eva Victor, who wrote, directed, stars in this movie. You and I have been fans of hers for a long time. She's been on our podcast, an incredible comedian, and now she's coming out doing the auteur thing. She's got an auteur movie out. It was one of the most buzzed about movies at the festival.
She's sort of the story of the fest.
She is the story of the fest. You see her picture on all the reports about Sundance 2025, and apparently there was an intense bidding war over this movie. A24 ended up winning the bidding war and buying it for ... $8 million? That's it?
That's a lot of money.
That's it?
It's an independent film
Not
bought at
compared to the
Sundance.
market this year.
$8
Look at
million.
this. Together, that body horror movie sold for $17 million to Neon. Neon put up $17 million for Together. A24 only putting up $8 million for their movie.
But Together has 2 name actors, whatever you think of them, and it has body horror. Eva's is a sad, slow, or not slow, but apparently it's like a sad, funny, smaller, independent feature for $8 million. And maybe it was a thing, Brett, where Netflix is like, we'll give you $12 million, and Eva and her smart lawyers were like, fuck you, we're going to A24 for $8 million so that we can have theatrical distribution.
Here's my thing, though. A24 can't pretend like they're the little guy on the block. They're the underdog. We don't have as much money as Netflix, but we'll give you so much care and attention and this and this.
That's
A24
good.
just gave $75 million to Josh Safdie to make Marty Supreme.
Different
and this
things
is a movie,
cost different things.
But this is a proven commodity. This is a made movie that is showing you that it works for audiences. It's got all the buzz in the world. It sounds like one of the only good movies coming unscathed out of Sundance. It sounds amazing.
Dude.
Look, and I'm not asking, look, okay, so it's not going to sell for as much as Together because Together has bankable stars and it's body horror. Fine. Here's all I'm asking. Here's all I'm asking. Double digits. 10 million. 10 million, okay? 8 million is too low. 10 million, you could have got it. You should have asked for it. You should ask for it. You should have played whatever dirty tricks you had to play.
Call him.
All right? 10 million. Sorry, Baby should have sold for 10 million, not 8. And that's why
I want to say
lawyers or whoever negotiated that sale are one of my losers from Sundance.
Firm rebuke. Sincere congratulations to Eva and the entire Sorry Baby team.
Huge congrats. Huge win for you. Should have been 10 million. Now, Joe, last but not least, my last loser of Sundance, my last loser of the Sundance Film Festival is the Sundance Film Festival. The biggest loser of the Sundance Film Festival this year.
Yeah.
And look, we have not seen.
Tell me, what
we
are you
have not
thinking?
seen most of these movies. Again, to just reiterate that, but the general consensus, the general almost universal consensus, was this was a bad year for Sundance in terms of the movies. A lot of overhyped movies that didn't deliver. I read a lot of reviews, and the most common experience shared by critics was going into a movie with excitement and anticipation and then coming out severely disappointed. And look, that's just part of going to a film festival, but this year the disappointment was definitely more pronounced than usual, and it was also reflected, like Joe pointed out, in the sales. Sales were very slow. Only 3 feature films sold, and Sorry Baby only selling for $8 million. Come on.
That's a lot.
And look, to be honest, I was not surprised by this news that Sundance kind of had a down year, because Sundance, the film festival, is in a kind of weird in-between state right now where it is trying to get bigger and become more of this sort of like South by Southwest style industry summit and less of like the film festival that created American independent cinema, which means it's going to have to move to a bigger city, most likely, probably Salt Lake City, and it's to kind of sort of balloon and become more sort of corporate sponsored and a summit, and honestly, it's going to become sort of less charming and less interesting and less fun, but it will become bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to need a bigger venue, but it's not quite there yet, so it's in this sort of in-between phase. And likewise, independent film is in a really weird in-between place right now, because if you look at some of the indie box office successes of last year, Longlegs, Terrifier 3, Challenger, Civil War, what were they all good at? Generating hype. Generating viral hype that oftentimes didn't have a whole lot to do with the movie, but put butts in seats, cut through the information overload of the internet, shot you with really interesting images, the threesome kiss from Challengers, Art the Clown in a Santa costume, Nick Cage in his Longlegs outfit, and with a tagline that says it's better than Silence of the Lambs or whatever they got somebody to say, right? Hype, hype, hype. My worry, though, is that the hype train is catching up to indie film. The snake is starting to eat its own tail, and we're getting hype in search of a movie as opposed to movies in search of hype to market themselves. I'm worried, Joe. I hope that indie film doesn't just become movies chasing memes, but sticks to its guns and makes great American cinema. But I gotta say, I'm a little worried right now. It feels like the hype train is taking over, and it's a little out of control, and what we got was a very lackluster Sundance with not many great movies and not many sales.
While I hear you, I guess I'll just say the opposite thing, which is just like, a lot of that being true, I just remember what a great year last year was. We watched all those movies, and there were so many good indie films. And looking down the barrel of another great year, I hear you, and then at the same time, your warning is well taken, but my heart is full of the movies.
I believe that, and I respect that. And this is like, look, this isn't like we're not already in the end times, but I am a prophet for the end times, saying you better fix some things. We better tweak some things. We better fix some things, and specifically entertainment journalism, movie journalism, so called. I'm looking at you as well, because Joe, listen to this. This was in Vulture, and I quote. I was reading their big Sundance recap, their big Sundance rundown, and it said, scroll on for some of our favorite moments from the Sundance Festival. You want to hear what some of Vulture's favorite moments from the Sundance Film Festival were?
Sure.
John Lithgow and Olivia Colman holding hands.
I'm sure it had to have been more than that.
Rachel Sennett giving us her best impression of Charlie XCX.
That's fun.
The cast of Oh Hi posing with our latest cover star, Adrian Brody.
I don't know what
that's just a description of a photo.
Okay, yeah.
This is a description of a photo that took place.
Okay, thin.
Chloe Sevigny paying respects to the late, great David Lynch.
Well,
that's
I like
good.
that.
That's good, okay? But the first three, are you kidding me? Those aren't moments. Those are just like soft memes. This is just content. And my worry is that Sundance Film Festival is going to turn into just this sort of content generation machine, this empty hype machine, this sort of corporate industry summit, and not the very important thing that it was born to do, which is to cultivate and promote the next generation of American indie cinema. I'm worried. We're not in the end times yet, but we're sure as hell getting close. Turn that hype train around, baby. Get back on the quality train.
And speaking of the quality train, we got some great reviews today, Brett.
We sure do. Next up, we're going to review this week's new releases, Presence and Companion. And while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers in our reviews, it's impossible to give an honest review of these stinking movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we're reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, not even a little bit, we recommend that you play it safe and put us on mute and rejoin us when we move on to the next movie. Just keep an eye on the screen if you're watching, or look in the show notes if you're listening to figure out when we're doing which movie when. Let's start with Presence. Does that work for you, Joe?
Oh, yeah.
Presence. Now, Presence is directed by Steven Soderbergh, a director we love, and written by David Koepp. I've never said his name out loud.
Yeah, neither have I, now that you mention it.
Yeah. I'm going to say David Koepp, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. Soderbergh also was the DP and the editor. He rules. This movie stars Lucy Liu, Chris Sullivan, Kalina Lang, Eddie Mayday, and West Mulholland. What a name, West Mulholland. It's a haunted house movie shot entirely from the POV of the ghost. But more than that, it is a movie about the family that moves into this house and all of their issues, and there's a villain lurking in plain sight. We will not spoil that. We will not spoil that.
I don't spoil good movies.
Presence premiered at Sundance last January 2024. Okay. But we're just getting a look at it now in theaters. It's distributed by Neon, and nice little pickup for Neon. It only cost $2 million, and it's already up to $5.6 million at the box office. Joe, what did you think of Presence, Steven Soderbergh's Presence?
Steven Soderbergh is such a gift to cinema. Sometimes in a reticent film marketplace, Steven Soderbergh never seems to have an issue taking a risk. And Presence is just another one of these. I don't know what you call this period. I guess it's late Soderbergh now because
Joe,
he's
I literally
Yeah.
put late period in my review and then crossed it out because it felt like mean, or it also felt like pessimistic. I was like, I hope this is the middle of his career.
He's like barely. He's
in
a young
his early
man.
60s.
Yeah,
He's in his
okay,
early
right.
60s.
So he's got plenty. Guy makes like a movie a year because he's the craftiest mother effer in Hollywood. But
the current era of Soderbergh.
this current I don't know what to even call it, this digital experimentation phase the past 10 years with some of his weird shows like Mosaic on HBO, and how odd and small and amazing some of his movies.
Yeah.
Like Kimmy,
High Flying Bird,
which I fucking
Lean, Mean,
loved.
Low Budget.
Lean, Mean, Low Budget, and not particularly interested in. This is a little silly to say, but it's not worried about the audience. It's worried about what can Soderbergh do to push his craft, and the audience is just going to love to watch. And in Presence, I did love to watch. You can really control cost when you have a great, strong thematic concept, when you have long takes, and when you have a single location. There's just when you're watching the film, you can see a lot of the smart choices made to control cost and keep it at that $2 million figure.
Yeah, and you know what I always say is that one thing that does not show up on budgets: composition. Yeah. Composition don't cost a thing, baby.
That's exactly right.
It don't cost a thing.
And do you know, beyond just being the DP, Soderbergh was actually the camera operator.
I love it.
Do you know
I
that,
love
folks?
This guy.
Soderbergh cam op. So the ghost that's like looking around, that's Soderbergh.
That's Soderbergh
Walking
going,
up the stairs,
ooh.
going into different rooms. That's Soderbergh. He's just like literally got $2 million and just made a whole entire movie. And I think that as far as the actual movie goes, beyond sort of the Soderbergh's an amazing technical daredevil, I thought the movie itself was really good. I thought it was an interesting angle on the ghost story, sort of traditional but told in a completely radical way that made it feel fresh. I like the pacing of it. I like sort of the unique themes that were explored in it about family and being a young woman. And then I really liked how it wasn't particularly scary until certain parts at the end, and that sort of dread, lag, silence before the boom really I found to be very effective, and it stayed with me after I left the theater. Lucy Liu gives a good performance, and actually a very fun performance because her character's odd.
Yeah.
So Brett, thanks for letting me ramble on and on. I just gotta say, like, this movie impressed me, and then I liked it. So I give this movie 3.5 stars. It was really good.
It was really good. It was really good. I also give it 3.5 stars. I thought it was really good as well. I thought the ghost POV device was fascinating. I don't think it never felt like a gimmick, and it never ran out of steam because Soderbergh had just enough tricks up his sleeve in terms of how he was using and executing that device that it stayed interesting throughout the whole movie. And it's really like an interesting little puzzle box of a movie. It's a movie that you're like engaged in. It's almost an interactive movie. It really demands the audience to sort of think about what's going on and make deductions. And I love that kind of a movie because you have to sort of intuit from just the way the camera is moving, like, who is this ghost? What are its priorities? What does it feel? What is it looking for? What does it want? What is it afraid of? Like, you have to sort of intuit all this based on what the camera is doing and what the camera is interested in, what the camera focuses on. So I thought it was a really fascinating device that really paid dividends. I thought the story was compelling. The characters were compelling. That was, just the mark of an old master, knowing that, he's not just going to do the device and then phone in the movie. The story and the characters were really, really well done. I saw it to be a ghost story about the state of the American family. There's a lot of sort of contemporary sort of family concerns, raising teenagers in the age of like social media, but not done in this sort of obnoxious, cloying way, but done in a very sort of character-driven, grounded way. There were just so many interesting dynamics, like the father's like terror as his son sort of becomes like a sort of a high school jock douchebag, and his inability to like know how to like curb that and like stop it, and the son just sort of laughs off any attempts that the dad makes to sort of reprimand him. And then the dad has a much closer relationship with the daughter, and then meanwhile Lucy Liu has like a much closer relationship with the son than the daughter, and so there's these like really interesting sort of like dynamics within the family. Man, it is terrifying to be a teenager in 2025 was a big takeaway for me. That was kind of the horror in this horror movie, more so than the ghost. I guess the only downside, the only thing that would keep it from going a little higher was just it is ultimately kind of, a Soderbergh exercise in filmmaking, and so it does have a few limitations, because you're seeing the characters in sort of fragments and from a distance and at odd angles. It's hard, as good as the performances were, it's hard to like for the performances to like cohere and become sort of like performances in and of themselves. They're really just sort of like pieces in the Soderbergh puzzle of the movie. But that's a slight critique. Overall, this movie is really good. Definitely worth your time. Definitely worth watching. I love this period of Soderbergh. And I also, like I said, gave it 3.5 stars. Now let's talk about Companion. Written and directed by Drew Hancock in his feature film directorial debut. It was produced by Zach Krieger, the director of Barbarian, which the trailers made a big old meal out of. Brought to you by the producer of Barbarian.
Good idea.
It stars Sophie Thatcher, who's in Yellow Jackets, and Jack Quaid, probably best known for being in The Boys. Those are big TV properties. Not surprising this movie did well in theaters relative to its budget. Those are big TV properties with big fan bases. This movie is about a couple on a weekend getaway with some friends at a remote cabin, which the trip unravels into chaos after a revelation about the secret identity of Sophie Thatcher. She's a sex robot. That's not a spoiler. That's the premise of the movie. And she's being used as a pawn in a big wicked game that the other characters are playing. It was produced by New Line Cinema, the house that Freddy Krueger built, and distributed by New Line's current owner, Warner Brothers. So Warner Brothers is ultimately on the hook for this one. Joe, what'd you think of Companion?
Companion was really disappointing. I like these kinds of stories, of which we get many. This kind of movie, I feel like I've seen 1,000 times. It's set up as one thing, and then there's like a Black Mirror-esque technology-driven twister-rooney that also sort of dovetails with sexuality. It's so potent and rich for themes, and it's so potent and rich for horror. And like you said, Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher, that's a great up-and-coming talent.
Great. Love them.
And I thought that from as far as a premise goes, it's like a Black Mirror again, like for the 8,000th time. Like, okay, I'm in. And it's like a sex robot and the ethics. Like, okay, good start.
Good.
But then the team forgot all the other parts, which is like the script should be engaging. It should feel grounded. The character should feel real, or the character should feel something else that you've specifically decided. Instead of amorphous, this movie is like bits floating in a big jello, like all like of a piece, but all like in the jello in different parts. And it doesn't taste good when you take a bite out of it. The whole movie, I'm like, that's the choice, that's the choice, that's the choice, that's the choice. Not scary, not sexy, not interesting, not ethically interesting, not well written, not well acted. Completely and totally disappointed. The fact that this has 95% on Rotten Tomatoes is just a testament to why Trump's back in office.
That's bad, people. That's bad.
And
I normally do not hold people responsible for their opinions on movies. Sometimes it's bad though, and it needs to be called out. That's bad. That's bad.
And finally, like this whole like Stepford Wives 50s cutesy aesthetic as sort of like heightened, elevated horror. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm saying like all the outfits they put Sophie in, and the whole idea that she's this like nice, devoted stepwife. What's that movie? Stepford Wife sort of character, and she's costumed that way. I don't know. Fucking First Thought City. I've seen this poster, this marketing, this idea, this concept, this costuming concept 1 million times. I think this movie had everything going for it, and it just didn't take advantage of any of it. Not one good set piece. The house that they picked in the woods like had a cool exterior, and then you get inside and there's nothing interesting or unique about this space that we have to spend the whole movie in. Horror people. Fuckers, enough with the woods. I'm done. If you're interested in doing the woods correctly and using all of the elements that you can get out of the beautiful and amazing and scary woods, then go ahead and do it. If you're going to just have it be in the woods because that's like a horror thing, and we're going to go to a cabin because that's like a horror premise, fuck you.
Yeah, this might as well have been my backyard for how much they use the woods.
Dude, I hate all these movies that like, it's in the woods and we're going to go, like a Wolfman was like in the woods. You guys are overusing the woods, and you're treating it like it's like, oh, well, then we'll go in the woods. Like, the woods is so potent and rich for horror. Can you please use your surroundings?
Do the woods.
Do the woods. Anyway, Brett, did I say my piece? I was disappointed.
You said your piece, and I agree with you, Joe. You've heard of Ex Machina. Well, this was Ex Crappina for me, Joe.
Very, very funny and sharp and astute.
I did not like it. And again, I want to be clear out of the gate. I do not hold Sophie Thatcher responsible for any of the reasons this movie was bad. I think she's an incredible talent.
She's cool. She's up and coming.
I think she's, with this and Heretic, I think she has a lot of potentially, particularly as a scream queen. I'd love to see her in more horror. I'd love to see her in more anything.
Brother, she's going to be Emma Stone.
Talented actor. Although I would love maybe if a couple more of these bomb, then she has to be a scream queen. And then we get a scream queen Sophie Thatcher career. New Barbara. Yes. Barbara Crampton. Crampton. Yeah. Joe, I agree with you. Everything you said about Companion. To me, it all comes down to 3 syllables: character. It's what separates Presence from Companion. It's what makes one engaging and the other one shallow and ineffectual. And I've been trying to figure out why they didn't even attempt to do character. It's just a big gaping hole in the movie that none of the characters are interesting or compelling or have anything.
Which is crazy because
sort of
the whole ethical consideration of should I have a sex robot be my girlfriend is that is so potent and can open up so much character dynamics. And there's a friend of Jack Quaid that thinks it's weird that he dates a sex robot. That's interesting.
They don't do
none
anything.
of that materializes on
anything.
screen.
They don't do anything with it. The characters are so flat, and on top of that, like you said, there is not it's not like they're able to paper over this lack of emotional interest with some great intellectual theme, some great sort of Black Mirror conundrum. There's none of that either. There's nothing to feel about this movie, and there's nothing to think about this movie. You just sort of sit there and watch this sort of shallow thing materialize across the screen for 90 minutes. It's really disappointing. And again, I don't blame the performances. Sophie Thatcher was a standout. Everyone else was just sort of solid. I mean, they were good enough for the movie to be better. But I was trying to figure out like what went wrong here, Joe. And I think maybe the movie felt like it was like vibing, like the movie felt like it had locked into a kind of vibe, like a specific like, because it's trying to do like barbarian horror. It's trying to be like sort of like a funny dark horror comedy, like the Monkey. It's trying to hit that vibe, and I think it felt like it had found that vibe when it completely had not found the vibe at all, because the jokes aren't working, the script is flat, the characters don't have any like dynamics or interesting relationships to each other, and so this vibe that I think the movie assumed was there never materialized. And without bad directing, and without the vibe, there's no movie. There's just like no movie here.
All of Companion works on paper as a financial exercise in the 2025 box office space. I can see the poster. It's got Sophie Thatcher in it. It cost $10 million. It has the word barbarian on it. So from all of that's good. But the producer of Barbarian, your job's to produce. No shade, my friend. I'm a producer. Maybe give some fucking notes to your team.
Give some notes, please. Next time, give some notes. Because what a bizarre like group dynamic between the main characters. Like they're all supposed to be old friends, but you feel like they're meeting for the first time. They have no sense of like familiarity or intimacy. There's no like real like long simmering resentments or anything. There's like no sense of like time or history between these three friends. They don't seem to have anything. I thought they were all like coworkers or something.
I want to like underline in bold what you just said.
Yeah.
The character relationships and dynamics weren't just like inaccessible. They were unbelievable. So they go to this house that's Jack Quaid's friend.
We haven't even talked about the Russian oligarch
Okay,
yet.
she is like his friend.
Yes.
But like they don't have any sort of.
They don't seem like friends.
They don't seem like friends or lovers or ex-lovers or enemies. They don't have any dynamic.
They seem like coworkers at a function.
And then she's with like an old weird Russian guy named Sergey who's like disgusting.
Played by
beautiful.
Rupert Friend.
No, Rupert Friend is the man.
I have nothing against.
No, I actually Rupert Friend Sergey I thought was pretty funny, but it doesn't make any sense.
But he's doing a performance out of like The Naked Gun. He's doing like a
that.
spoofy Russian oligarch, and it's like, what is the tone of this movie?
Whatever.
Who is this person, and why are you at his house? And then you're like, wait, she's dating him? Why? How?
Then they invited their gay best friends, played by Lucas Gage, who we love, and by Harvey.
I don't love, but sure.
Brett, you love Lucas Gage. You talk about him all the time.
I liked him.
He was in Smile 2.
He was in Smile 2.
And you root for him.
I do not. I think he's overexposed. I think he needs to pick better movies.
I thought you loved
No,
Gage.
that's my opinion. I think he's in too many things, and like they're not good enough. The batting average is too low right now. Well, but I loved you in Smile 2, baby.
We love you in Smile, Lucas. But Lucas and Harvey Guillen, I don't know that fellow's name, but
from What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows, who's a funny guy. They play the funny gay best friends, which is like A, offensive, and B, like wasn't funny or good. And it didn't seem of a piece.
Joe is calling it that because it does not it in any way transcend that like stereotype.
No, that's what they wanted.
Like,
let's have the gay best friends come.
They are almost like cynically like employed in the movie in that role. It's almost cynical in how sort of one dimensional that archetype.
Do you know what it is? It's just like so obviously what they would pick based on the quality of this film. Just like the most like first thought.
Yeah.
Silly, like whatever. Anyway, those two guys are doing their damnedest to like be charming or funny, but the director has no sort of handle on the tone, like Brett was saying.
No one's in the same movie.
Everyone's in a different movie. Nobody makes any sense. The plot is so ham-fisted. The plot, like the way it goes along, is so unsatisfying. I hate to dwell on it because I like so many people involved with the project.
I know.
We're disappointed. That's it. I'm done.
But look, it has like a fucking 98% score.
Who gives a shit what we think? Here's what I think.
That's not accurate.
Companion.
I'm sorry. I know this is all subjective. That is not accurate.
Guys, come on.
That's not accurate. This is not a.
I saw this movie with a friend of mine that's always down to give the benefit of the doubt, and even he had to admit, he was like, it just didn't work. It didn't work. I'm gonna say Companion was bad. I'm giving it 2 stars.
You know what, Joe? I had the exact same rating. I'm gonna say bad 2 stars. I'm not trying to pile on this thing, and it did have a.
You can't pile on a 98% Rotten Tomatoes
I can't.
financial winner. Like,
I'm not trying to pile on
the
our own
outs
review, I guess. And I'm rooting for Sophie Thatcher. I thought her performance was very strong. So I'm going to say bad 2 stars. Nothing below that. Bad 2 stars. All right, Joe, that brings us to the end of another episode, another regular first half episode of Movies Baby. But don't go anywhere, because in the second half of today's episode, only on Patreon, that's patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. In the second half, we are going to be going over our top 5 actresses of 2024. We're going category by category leading up to the Oscars.
And Brett, it was hard. I had to leave
Very
some
hard.
incredible performances
hard.
on the chopping room
Excruciating.
table. There were so many amazing Best Actress performances this year. Cannot wait to get into
in
it.
our also our weekly segment of award season spotlight, we're going to be talking about the movie Baby Girl. We've not talked about Baby Girl yet. It came out when we were on break. We haven't talked about Baby Girl yet. We're going to give you our review of Baby Girl. We're going to give you our top 5 actresses of 2024. That's only on Patreon. And then next week, I also want to say next week, there's our Patreon URL if you're watching, patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. You can sign up for a 7-day free trial. You can you can what else can they do, Joe? They can
they can engage with the community.
Yes. It's a great place. We put a lot of great stuff on there. You get the full episodes. You get video episodes. You get sort of bonus stuff we put up on
Come
there.
hang out and hear our Best Actresses.
Come on, and support the show.
What are you going to do?
I need to
go
buy
back
more
to
Mylars.
Work?
I want to do a new Mylar every week. I got Craven the Hunter this week. I want to buy some new ones. That means I need money, baby, to fund my Mylar obsession. Help me out with that. Next week on the regular show of Movies Baby, we are reviewing, it's Valentine's Day weekend, baby, and it's Valentine's Day horror, Valentine's Day action thrillers. We're reviewing the slasher Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes. Joe's shaking his head. I'm going to remain optimistic until I see Hard Eyes, because I would love, what would be better than to get a great slasher right about now?
Too calculated. Too perfect.
Hard Eyes. And then we got Love Hurts. Love Hurts with Ke-Huy Quan.
I don't know which movie I'm looking forward to seeing less.
An area
Can I get a Carson? Do you want to do the show next week? Who cares?
I'm holding out hope. I'm gonna try to have a fun week at the movies with Love Hurts and Hard Eyes. But we got to be honest, Joe. We got to be honest.
No, I'm gonna watch it. All I have to do is just look and then come in here and tell you what I thought.
That's
it's
right.
very easy.
Which is what we'll do. It's what we'll do next week. But right now, we're going to get ready for the second half of the show, our top 5 actresses of 2024, some real talent, some real strong performances. We'll see you there on Patreon. Bye.